Hi everyone, I'm Chris, an architect and educator based in the UK. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to create architecture drawings 2 times faster with Rayon Design. We'll start by importing a basic floor plan and then layer on information like walls, zones and blocks. We'll create a distinctive stylized drawing, completing your drawing set in an incredibly streamlined way. You can follow along by signing up for free and using the drawing linked in the video description. So let's get started. So you can create a free Rayon account at rayon.design and get started from there. So starting in the workspace, this is where you can import your DWG, PDF or even an image file to trace over. So we'll go to import, we'll find our DWG that's been provided. Hopefully that sits on my desktop. We'll go to open. So it takes a little minute just to convert the model and then import it into a temporary space. And there we've got it, our site plan and our building model. So the next step is to pick 2 known lengths. So I'm going to zoom into the floor plan. And for example, at the moment, the drawing's coming in saying that door is 90 meters, which I know is probably not quite correct. So I'm going to click on the first point, click on the next point and say, actually, that should be 90 centimeters, which makes a lot more sense. So we'll do that, we'll press continue, and then that will rescale the drawing. Import that into our model space, and there we have a 90 centimeter door. And I'll just double check that with our dimension tool, ding, ding, and that's coming up as 90 centimeters. So that's imported perfectly. Okay, so now that our DWG has been imported, we need to lock that, and then we can trace over it with our Rayon wall tool. So we can see the DWG here, so all these lines are on different layers. So we can go over to the left-hand side, go to the layer tab. The 0 layer is where our drawn information will be. So all of these layers below are what came in as part of the DWG import. So we can highlight all of those and press lock. That means that when I move over them, I don't start to interact with them. The other helpful thing that I can do is hide them if I want. So we'll just undo that, and then we can start to use our wall tool. So I'll create a new layer, call that walls, and get started. Okay, so we can get started with the wall tool. So one thing I just want to do to start with is flick our centimeters to millimeters, because that's the way my brain works. And we'll zoom into the floor plan, and we can see here that there are 2 types of wall. There's an external wall and then there's an internal wall. So our external walls are 300 millimeters, very sensible, and our internal walls are 100 millimeters. So the really great thing that we can do in Rayon is set up wall types. So they're types of styles. So I can draw a wall here. I'll just draw 2 walls to start with. Here we go. So we'll call this wall number 1. We'll change our thickness to 300, and just for the sake of clarity, I'm going to make that red. And on the second wall, that's already at 100, and I'm just going to make that green for clarity. And we can save that as a style. So if we go to the plus sign and we then call that external wall, press enter, and the same thing with this one, save the style, we call that internal wall. There we go. Then we have these 2 wall types set up, and then we can just go over to styles and we can see them here in our wall styles. And that means that whenever I draw a new wall, here, for example, I can then switch between the styles and say, actually, I wanted that as an external wall, or actually, I wanted that as an internal wall. So you don't have to mess about changing your lines, you just need to change your styles. So let's just clean that up, and we'll start to trace our external walls. There we go. And then we can start drawing our other walls. So I actually want that as a internal wall. There we go. Then we can draw our internal walls. These obviously snap nicely to each other. Perfect. Oh, we actually have 3 types of walls. Very interesting. So let's just say we draw that as an example in our internal wall type. Now we're going to detach the style from that, because otherwise that would change the internal wall type. And I'm going to say, actually, I want a 600 mil wall. I'll change the color to blue, for example. And I'll create a new style. You see that pop up there, and we'll call that fireplace wall, for example. And then if we wanted to apply that one, we just click on the wall, go to the little swatch tool, click on that, there we go. So you can see there, all the walls have been drawn. They're all nice and neat. And as I said before, we can then go back into our layers and then just hide the background just to check what we've drawn. Okay, so now I've got these walls drawn. I want to go back in and have a look at the styles, try to make a bit more of an aesthetically pleasing drawing. So I can see my 3 wall styles here, and I can say, actually I want to edit those styles. I don't really want a solid red wall. So I can go into texture or hatch. So I'm going to go into hatch, and you can see it immediately swaps out the hatch for that. So I could change this to a hatch pattern or a cross hatch pattern. Maybe let's do a cross hatch pattern. You can change the opacity, and you can change the scale of what you're doing. So at the moment it's a 1 scale, so maybe at 0.2, for example. Go that, and that obviously automatically affects all of those walls. So we'll go into internal wall. Again, we'll change the style. We'll go to hatch. Maybe I want that as just a hatch. And then again, let's change the size. You can see that there. Maybe the fireplace one for the last time. Maybe that wants to be a big concrete thing. So again, just change the scale of that. So there we've got our sort of 3 styles, and they obviously get saved into the system, and we can use those throughout. So we have some level of consistency as we're drawing. Okay, so now I've got the walls drawn. Let's have a look at the zones. So zones are really about creating a space or a room which is bounded by the walls. So we can go into our zone tool, which is just down the bottom here. Actually, maybe let's just hide our back layers so we've got a bit of clarity. So here we go. So this is all that drawn information. We can create a zone very easily by just hovering over a space, and it will automatically register what's being bounded by walls. So we can say a zone here, and create one here. So those are all our spaces which have been formed into zones, and you'll see the little text note which automatically calculates the area. Okay, so with those zones, we can do the same thing that we did with the walls and create a style. So we can click on one of them, maybe let's say on the living space, for example. We can create a new style. We'll call that timber floor, for example. We'll change the hatch on there. Maybe change it to Let's give it a nice herringbone pattern. We'll probably knock back the opacity a little bit so it's not quite as in your face. There we go. And that is saved as a style again. So for example, I could pick a style, swatch that one, and again it will copy that style across. But in fact, I probably want these what look like bathrooms and utility spaces to be a separate style. So again, we can create a new style. We'll call that tiled floor. Again, we'll change our hatch, change the opacity down, and then we can pick a swatch, go from there. So the next thing to do is to start naming your zones, which kind of helps when you're tagging things out. So think about the label as a tag which is reading from this space. So if I click on this actual zone, I can change the name of the zone to garage, and that will come out in the tag. Similarly, office. Call this one utility, WC. Now, what about if I wanted to swap this very large zone into kind of two spaces? So there isn't a wall there, but I can put in something called a zone divider. So this allows me to kind of create a break between two areas, and you'll see there, the minute that line is put in, it sees that as a separate space. So this is now tagging this room as one space, and I've lost the zone on the other, so I can again create a new zone there, and I want to call that one lobby, for example, and maybe that has a completely different style. So we'll call that one timber floor 2. So we can change the opacity again. We have a nice horizontal floor in there. So again, just like before, we can go into our style window and we can find those styles that we've just created. So they're just here, timber floor 2, tiled floor. And we can go into any of those and say, actually, not sure about that herringbone pattern. I wanted something a bit jazzier. So here we go. And then that automatically changes to any of those zones that are tagged like that. And if we forget to do that, we can just add a note. And there we have it. All the areas easily calculated and all the zones patterned as we like. This is a really kind of helpful thing that we can change those styles on a different type of drawing. So I could color code those zones if I wanted to indicate different things like different ceiling types, different floor types, all just through the sort of tagging and the styles. So we've drawn out our basic walls and now we'll put in some doors and windows just to illustrate how you do that. So we can go to our library, we can search for door. Let's say we'll have this one, select that just loads it. And then my little tool here, which is the insertion tool, allows me to populate doors wherever I want. So I'll click to place it, and then it will give me the selection of which way I want it to turn, inward, outward, left hand, right hand. So we can just populate like that, and we can do exactly the same thing with windows. So we go to our opening, we can change our block. So again, go to window, basic window, we can select, and again, that will insert it as we like. So we can just go around and populate the model with all the required elements. I've just spent some time refining the drawing down and populating it with all the windows and doors. With the structure in place, we're now going to add blocks and annotations to the drawing to make it much more informative. Rayon's block library includes more than 4,000 top, side and front view symbols, and you can even import DWG blocks, create your own, or curate libraries for easy access. Let's drop in some key elements and annotate them with dimensions and labels. So let's get started with annotations. So we'll create a new layer, go over to the layer tab, add new layer, call it annotations, make sure that one's on the top so it can be read the most clearly. So, and you can see that it's selected by this little tick. We'll go down to the tab down here, so dimensions, this one in the middle, click on it, and just in basic terms we can click one end, click the next, and we have this annotation line. So this is in millimeters, which is what I like to see. And you can see again here on the right hand side we have a styles tab, so we can edit that style. That called dimensions. We've got it in a red color. We can change the type of arrow on here, change the size of that. We can even change the font if we felt like it. And then that's our dimension style. So again, that can be swapped out later if we choose to. The other helpful thing with dimensions is that we can obviously do it as part of a chain. So you will have a series of dimensions that you select as you go. So let's click on chain. And actually I'd want a dimension where this door sits. So without coming out of the tool, you can do your series of dimensions there. And then if I actually decide that I'm not quite sure about that end style, I can just go back in and change it for a simple arrow. So again, nice and easy, nice and quick. So with the dimensions already in place, we can now add a few blocks. So we'll go to the block tab, which is just under the layer tab on the left hand side. We can go to libraries. So there's a huge array of different standard blocks that are included. Let's just have a look at the basic blocks, which is this one here. So each of them come with a series of different views. So we could drag in this dining table, for example, and you can see there on this other side, we also have elevation views, so with and without furniture. So I'll just add those just to show you how they look, but these obviously all correlate in terms of the dimensions with the top view. Similarly, there's a whole array of different pieces of furniture that we can put in, so we could start to populate the kitchen if we wanted to. And again, you can see if you click on this little purple button, there are side, front section views. With the furniture in place, we can also add in things like annotations. So if we just scroll down here, there's a tab called title blocks and annotations. This has things like scale bars, north arrows, grid lines, section lines, elevation marks, all the sort of things that you would expect on an architectural drawing. So we can obviously populate the drawing with furniture, but we can also add in helpful annotations. So we'll just scroll down to title blocks and annotations, which is here. And this folder includes lots of different symbols that you would typically find on an architectural drawing set. So, for example, let's find the window tag. Again, we can just drag and drop. Obviously, depending on the size of the drawing, we can adjust that to suit. And just like every other element within Rayon, we can adjust the style of that. So I can change the type of line. Can you say that wants to be red, maybe a little bit thicker. And similarly, I can change the text. So again, I can swap that for red, for example. And then I can copy and paste that and tag each window as I go. Similarly, we can add a north arrow. To our drawing, and again we just edit we can just edit that down. With our zones that we created previously, we can also edit the zone tags themselves. So if I click on the zone tag, I can create a new style called zone, for example. And again, I can change the color of the font. I can call my room living room. And for example, say I wanted that to be slightly larger, I can change the size of the font as well. And that obviously still reads the overall area of the space. And you can really go as far as you like. If you look at the library that's included, there's a whole array of different things, from electrical symbols for setting out your light sockets and switches, gym symbols, there's mechanical MEP symbols, things for kitchens, light fittings, even stuff down to medical equipment and musical instruments. The really helpful aspect of the block library is that it's also searchable. So I can go to block, I can go to library, and then if I can't find what I want, I just search for it. So let's search for car. I've even got a car charger. And I can drag and drop my car into the space. Similarly, if I wanted to add some vegetation around the house, I can just search for some trees. And just as before, it's a drag and drop feature. And we also have multiple views for our elevations if we choose to. If you keep going with the annotations and the blocks, your plan will start to look like this. So lots of useful information, windows are tagged, dimensions, labels on the rooms, areas, and even floor heights. And then, once you've added all the blocks, you have a sort of fully furnished space, which really comes to life when people are looking at it. So we've got an array of furniture, we've got all the sort of kitchen fittings, the stairs, vehicles, and the landscape. So I've just spent a little bit of time finalising the drawing and adding a title sheet. If you want to export the drawing, we need to create a page. So we'll go to the little symbol on the left-hand side of here, pages. We'll add a page, and then on the right side, we can adjust that size. So we'll say it's an A0 page, and we'll call the scale 1 to 50, and we'll drag that around our frame, and then that sets that drawing scale. With that page set up, we can then export the drawing. So we'll just go over to here, the three little lines, menu, export, and we can export that as an image, a DWG, or a PDF, which is what we want to do. And then you can see there, model canvas, page 1. So that will then create our drawing. We can name it, so we would call it drawing export. And we can even adjust the size. We'll go to export, and then we'll choose a location. We'll just pop it on the desktop, go from there. So it doesn't take long to export, and we'll just check it's there. Drawing export, there we go. I've given you an overview of how quick the drawing and documentation process is in Rayon, but my favourite aspect is the ability to share. You can invite your teammates into the model to collaborate in real time. You can use the share button to grant access, add canvas comments or annotations to guide viewers, or even ask for feedback. It's a really great feature for working with clients, contractors, or other team members. So to share, there's a big blue share button up in the top right hand corner, and we can literally just add our colleagues and connections using their email. If they don't already have a login, it will prompt them to sign up. And similarly, we can publish these files for a presentation. When you're granted access to a drawing, you can go to the comments section, which is over on the left-hand side, and you can add a comment. So we can click somewhere on the canvas. So say I was reviewing this drawing and I wasn't quite sure about that corner junction. Not sure about this corner junction. Do we need a structural support? Yeah, question mark. Post. And then obviously when I go into that drawing, I'm alerted to that and we can have a conversation and collaborate on the design. Imagine how much that speeds up the process, having a real-time commenting process on your drawings. So that's how you can create a comprehensive drawing set incredibly quickly using Rayon Design. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and we'd be happy to help. You can try it out for yourself using the free template linked in the description. If this tutorial was helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.